Prepare to embark on a journey back in time, to an era shrouded in mystery and wonder. Today, we unravel the secrets of a world long forgotten, the world before the flood. Join us as we explore what life was like, the civilizations that thrived, and the untold stories of ancient times. From the rise of mighty empires to the whispers of lost civilizations, we'll uncover the truth buried beneath the sands of time. Get ready to discover a world unlike any other. Let's dive into the mysteries of the pre-flood era. Have you ever imagined a world full of giants and ancient mysteries? Are you about to discover the hidden secrets of an almost forgotten era? In Before the Flood, what was the world like? We dive deep into the untold stories of humanity, revealing truths beyond imagination. Join us and discover the wonders and terrors of a world before the catastrophe that changed everything. Every second of this video is a piece of the puzzle that makes up our story. Don't miss the opportunity to be part of this unforgettable journey. Press play now and prepare for an adventure that will transform your perspective on the past. Before the flood, as described in the first chapters of the Bible, especially in the book of Genesis, we found a world very different from our own. A world before the Great Flood. This era, often covered in layers of interpretation, is a time of early humanity marked by long life expectancies, divine human interactions, and a closeness to God and the story of creation itself. Characters like Adam, Eve, Cain, Abel, and eventually Noah offer us glimpses of a life that seems relatable. Various forces came together to make the flood occur. Satan and the fallen angels were the first to cause the flood, happening before the creation of the world. This event was the creation of the children of God. In the biblical story of the book of Job, God reveals an event that took place before the creation of the world. Job 38:4-7. Where were you when I founded the earth? Tell me, if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements, if you know? Or who spread the cord over it? On what are its foundations based? Or who laid its cornerstone while the morning stars sang together and all the children of God, the angels, shouted for joy? It is revealed that angelic beings, referred to as morning stars and children of God, witnessed the creation of the earth and celebrated the power, glory, and wisdom of God involved in the process. Before the flood there was a fallen being. The Bible only makes sporadic references to fallen angels, as the vast majority of angels in heaven never lost their way or turned to evil. However, there were some who made that decision. It is important to remember that heaven was originally meant to be their home for all eternity, but they fell from it. What caused all this? We cannot deny the fact that angels have free will. His fall can be seen in terms of his free will. The book of Jude makes this quite clear. I want to remind you, even if you already know, that the Lord, after saving the people from the land of Egypt, subsequently destroyed those who did not believe, who refused to trust, obey, and depend on him, and the angels who did not maintain their own designated place of power, but left their proper abode. These he has kept in eternal chains under the dense darkness of complete darkness for the judgment of the great day. Judas decided that the angels did not maintain their own dominion. The expression own dominion can be interpreted both as a rule and as a starting point. Angels were created specifically to dwell in heaven with God. They worshipped God and carried out his commands. They were formed to glorify God, just like human beings. But while humans were designed to live on earth, angels were created to live in heaven. Despite this, those angels left their beginning, which is another way of saying that they left their initial location in heaven. Satan, who disguises himself as an angel of light, is in command of these angels and acts as their leader. The Great Rebellion, as some call it, was an event in which Satan and a portion of the angelic legions of heaven waged war against God and his angels in an attempt to overthrow God's authority in the eternal realm. The devil planned a plot to overthrow God, his creator, and he and the angels who followed him ended up being defeated in the conflict. We have an account of this from Jesus himself, for he was present. Jesus spoke about the glory and majesty that he shared with God, the Father, before the world existed. John 17:5. Now, Father, glorify me with you, with the glory and majesty that I had with you before the world existed. Before the creation of the earth there was God, and God had majesty with his Son. Jesus declares, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven." As you can see, Satan is much more than a red figure with horns and a trident. He is an ancient being with true spiritual power, which he uses for evil and selfish purposes. Paul said that our struggle is not merely physical. We are in a battle, but it is not against flesh and blood. Satan's kingdom is highly organized, with different areas and levels of authority, and its headquarters are in heavenly regions. This is an impressive fact, but quite clear. The fact that Satan leads a highly organized kingdom surprises some, but there are many clear indications of this in the Bible. A spiritual war has begun. It is a confrontation between two kingdoms, one ruled by God, the Prince of Peace, and the other by Satan, the Prince of Darkness. After being expelled from heaven, Satan and his followers compromised with each other and formed the rebellious kingdom. In the Garden of Eden, Satan launched his first attack on God's authority on earth. Satan considered the earth his domain and saw Adam and Eve as invaders of God and his territory. If God created humanity to live on earth and establish his kingdom, Satan needed a plan of attack. When God created the world, there was a place called Eden. In Hebrew, the word Eden means joy or happiness. It was a place of provision where man could find God, according to Genesis 3:8. Now, in the perfect garden, there was a special tree called the tree of knowledge of good and evil. God told Adam and Eve that they could eat from any tree in the garden except this one. Satan needed to destroy man's destiny, but how? The devil, the old serpent, approached Eve and used 3 strategic tactics against her. The first was doubt. Did God really say? In Genesis 3 verse 1, we can almost hear the father of lies interacting with Eve, the deceiver. He then used his second strategy, supposition, to make Eve doubt whether the consequences of her disobedience would really result in her death. As God had said, "You will certainly not die." Genesis 3:4. The third and final tactic used against Eve was temptation. God became disappointed because of their disobedience, and they could no longer remain in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve had already made a mistake by eating the forbidden fruit. Satan's subversive counterattack completely overwhelmed them. But God established a foothold in the Garden of Eden by promising that the serpent's head would be bruised by the woman's offspring. By turning the tables on the tempter, before expelling Adam and Eve from the garden, he demonstrated his complete dominion over Satan. The first murder of Cain and Abel, Genesis 4, is a notable event. Someone observed that the sin committed by the first man led the second to kill the third. Despite being expelled from the garden, God continued to bless Adam and Eve. Eve gave birth to 2 sons, Cain and Abel, with the help of the Lord. As both children grew up hearing stories about God, they knew they should make offerings to their Creator. Both came prepared to worship in their own time. But while the Lord cared about Abel and his offering, he did not care about Cain and his offering. This angered Cain. Despite God's warning to master sin, Cain deceived his brother, killed him, buried him, and completely disowned him. Am I my brother's guardian? Ask Genesis 4 verse 9. Fearful that others might kill him for his crime, God put a mark on Cain to protect him, saying, "Whoever kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7-fold." Genesis 4:15. Cain was punished, becoming a restless wanderer, far from his home and family. After being punished, Cain went to live in a place called the land of Nod, east of Eden. On this land he built a city and named it after his son Enoch. His descendants included influential people of his time. Jabal, the father of those who live in tents and raise livestock. Jubal, the father of all those who play stringed instruments and flutes. And Tubal-Cain, who forged bronze and iron tools. Genesis April 17, 22. What follows Cain's punishment is the story of 2 families, a recurring theme in Genesis. Unfortunately, Cain's murderous ways were passed down through his lineage. We find a man bragging about his own violence all the way to his great-great-grandson. The evil was spreading. God's perfect design is barely 4 chapters long, and already we find people delighting in the shedding of blood and despising his design for marriage. Before the flood, polygamy was also passed down through the line of Cain. Until then, a man and a woman were married. God established a new family tree in contrast to Cain's line. He gave Eve a son named Seth to replace Abel. Seth exemplified the same type of worship as his late brother Abel. As people began to invoke the name of the Lord in connection with Zed, Cain's form of worship, which is proud and self-centered, contrasts with the humble form of worship practiced by Abel and Zed, who cry out to God. Jude 11. There are of them, they followed the path of Cain, eagerly threw themselves into Balaam's error for profit, and perished in Korah's rebellion. It is no surprise, then, that when God needed an obedient servant, centuries later, he chose Noah from the Set line. Cain's legacy was complicated. On the one hand, he and his family were very good at inventing new ideas and ways of doing things. On the other hand, they also had a lot of problems with fighting and hurting others, and this seemed to get worse over time. This became a symbol of what it means to be human, a struggle between our potential to do good and our ability to do evil. In the generations after Adam, the world became populated, but it also became filled with sin. People were not nice to each other. They lied, stole, and even killed. At that time, men lived extraordinarily long lives, with their years numbered in the hundreds. It was a different era. A time when humanity was still intimately connected to its origins, and the world itself was younger and fresher. Adam and Eve had other sons and daughters after Cain and Abel. With the growth of his family came the birth of civilization itself. The Bible says that after fathering Seth, Adam lived another 800 years and had other sons and daughters. Genesis 5:4. As Adam and Eve's children grew up, they took wives and had families of their own, and the population began to grow steadily. In addition to Cain and Abel, Seth was another son of Adam who also had descendants, including Enoch, Methuselah, and eventually Noah. Adam, the first man, lived to be 930 years old, Genesis 5:5. Yes, that's right, 9 centuries. His son Seth lived 912 years, Genesis 5:8. And Enoch, son of Seth, lived 905 years, Genesis 5:11. As generations passed, each man had children and taught them the ways of the land, how to farm the land and care for the animals, and also how to connect with God. This line of people was special. They carried the seed of humanity's first union with fallen angels. But, despite their long lives and profound wisdom, these early humans were not immune to the problems that often afflict humanity, such as jealousy, anger, and sometimes even violence. However, there was a man named Enoch. Genesis chapter 5 gives us the first mention of Enoch. There's a first Enoch who was the son of Cain. This is a different Enoch. Genesis 5:21. When Enoch was 65 years old, he became the father of Methuselah. And based on our biblical knowledge, we know that his son Methuselah was the oldest man recorded in the scriptures. By studying the genealogies written in the Bible, we discovered that Enoch was Noah's great-grandfather. This is found in Genesis chapter 5, verses 22 and 24. The Bible says that Enoch walked with God in an era where most of his contemporaries only had a record of his birth and his children. Enoch is like a breath of fresh air in the history books. He was introduced like others, but despite not having lived as long as some of the other men, his testimony is captivating. The Bible says that he walked with God, and when it was time to leave the earth, God took him without going through death as we know it. His description is brief, but dense and meaningful. This indicates something about his pure path with God, who translated it. His life provides a model for many people across different generations, teaching us how to live for an audience of one. It silently teaches us to passionately pursue close communion and communication with God, knowing that in doing so we will experience God in a new dimension. Genesis 5:24. Enoch walked with God and was no longer there because God took him. Enoch's case was the first recorded rapture, as God simply took him. Perhaps the communion was so intense that God's presence simply enveloped him and carried him away. The book of Hebrews speaks of men of whom this world was not worthy. Despite the beauty of Enoch's life, his era was not completely joyful. People lived a long time, but not always well. They had many years to hone their skills, build things, and explore the land, but also more time to make mistakes, stray from God's path, and let their hearts harden. This eventually led to a world so corrupt and far from its divine origins. Population growth and the expansion of tribes and families occurred over time. Clans and tribes were formed, each descending from one of the original patriarchs. They scattered across the land, finding new territories to call home. As the population grew, so did the need for different roles and professions. People couldn't just be shepherds and farmers, they needed to diversify. Cain, for example, was a laborer of the land, Genesis 4:2, while his brother Abel was a sheep keeper. This suggests that even at that early stage, roles were being defined based on need and skill set. Tubal-Cain, a descendant of Cain, became an instructor of every craftsman in bronze and iron, Genesis 4:22, indicating the emergence of more specialized professions, such as metallurgy. The musicians also made an appearance. Hubal, another descendant of Cain, was the father of all those who play the harp and flute. Genesis 421. These roles allowed society to become more complex and organized, setting the stage for more advanced forms of civilization. Although people learned new skills and professions, life before the Great Flood was not perfect or happy. The Bible tells us that the Lord saw how great the evil of the human race was on earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. Genesis 6:5. In summary, before the flood, humanity expanded and diversified. Families became tribes, roles became professions, and civilization took its first steps. During this expansion, the invasion of the Nephilim occurred. As the self-appointed commander of the kingdom of darkness, Satan summoned his evil legions to infiltrate humanity with the goal of contaminating the endemic line that would lead to the Messiah. Genesis 6:1.2 When human beings began to multiply on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful and married any of them they chose. The children of God are characterized in the book of Job as angels. 2/3 of the angels remained with God in the third heaven, elect angels, while 1/3 were cast out, fallen angels of Satan. Feeling threatened, the prince of darkness summoned his evil legions to infiltrate humanity. These fallen angels descended to earth and gave birth to the Nephilim, or giants. The Hebrew word for Nephilim translates as fallen. This satanic invasion of Genesis 6 corrupted the entire world. It is more accurate to see the children of God as demons. Angels in rebellion against God, or men exclusively possessed by demons, and the daughters of men as human women. In the first chapters of Genesis, specifically Genesis 6.1.5, the Bible paints a picture of the world before the flood. Then the Lord said, "My spirit will not strive with man forever, for he also is flesh. However, his days will be 120 years. The Nephilim were in the land in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God joined themselves to the daughters of men, and they bore them children. These were the powerful men of old, men of renown. And the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intention of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. The earth was not a place of peace or goodness, but was full of sin, violence, and moral corruption." Imagine a world where people are consumed by their own desires, always seeking to do what they want, regardless of the cost to others. Honesty, integrity, and kindness are not celebrated or even understood virtues. Instead, deception and manipulation ruled the day. Everyone is for themselves, and the very fabric of society is torn by selfishness and evil. In this environment, families are not sanctuaries of love and support, but battlefields of deception and betrayal. Neighbors don't take care of each other. They seek to exploit each other. Governments are not institutions of justice, but systems of oppression. In this chaotic world arose an unusual development, the Nephilim. They were special, and not like ordinary people, possessing great strength and an imposing presence. However, they seemed to aggravate the world's problems even more. They were admired, feared, and perhaps even worshipped, distancing people from the true God who created them. Their power made them objects of fascination, but they were part of a world that was sinking deeper and deeper into chaos and sin. It was in this context that God saw the evil of humanity. The crown of creation, humanity, had lost its way. Instead of living in harmony with each other and the world, people were consumed by violence, evil, and deceit. God looked at his creation and felt immense sadness. The Bible says that the Lord regretted having made human beings on earth, and it weighed on his heart. Genesis 6:6 It was a divine lament, a sadness so deep that it transcends human understanding. Imagine a father devastated by the actions of a rebellious son, but infinitely amplified. So, in his great pain, God made a difficult decision. Genesis 6-7 Then the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, from man to the animals, the creeping creatures, and the birds of the air, because I regret having made them. God was disturbed by the actions of the people he created and saw no other option to heal a world spiraling into chaos. But even in the midst of this dark chapter of human history, there was a glimmer of hope, a man named Noah, Genesis 6:8. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. The world had gone astray, but Noah stood out as a beacon of hope, a man of integrity and faith, Genesis 6:9. Noah was a righteous man, upright among the people of his time. Noah walked with God. Noah was born in the line of Adam, descending from Seth, Enoch, Cain, and several other ancestors who carried the torch of righteousness through the generations. Eventually, this line led to Noah, a man who not only carried the torch, but allowed it to shine brightly in his life. He was also a family man. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. As a loving father and faithful husband, he instilled in his children the same virtues that he carried in his heart. Despite the surrounding darkness, Noah's home was a sanctuary. Even when God shared his painful decision to wash away the evil ravaging the earth through a flood that would drown every living thing, Noah's faith did not waver. He understood the gravity of the task before him and accepted it with a heavy but resolute heart. God said, I am going to put an end to all human beings, because the earth has been filled with violence because of them. I am going to destroy them along with the earth. Genesis 6:13 God considered Noah worthy of being the guardian of a new beginning for humanity. Noah did what God told him to do, even when people around him mocked him or didn't believe anything bad was going to happen. He spent years building the ark, warning people about the impending flood and waiting for the moment when God would seal him and his family inside this gigantic wooden shelter. When the heavens finally opened and the earth was swallowed by water, Noah's virtues became the cornerstone of a new world. His faithfulness and obedience preserved life, and from his lineage would emerge the nation of a purified land. Thus, in a world falling into chaos, Noah's light shone brighter. A testament to the enduring power of virtue and faith in the face of overwhelming darkness. The ark was the sanctuary of Noah's family, a ship to carry them above the waters that would soon engulf the earth. God said to Noah, Make yourself an ark of cypress wood. Make compartments in the ark and cover the tar inside and out. Genesis 6:14 God provided Noah with very specific dimensions, designs, and plans for the ark. This was no ordinary ship. It was a special ship designed to save the last living things when the world was flooding. Genesis June 14:16. The ark was to measure 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide and 30 cubits high, equipped with a door and a window, and divided into several levels. Converted to modern measurements, they would be approximately 137 meters long, 23 meters wide and 14 meters high. It would have a door and a window and would be divided into different floors. God said, So you will do it. Genesis 6:15. Then, Noah began the monumental task of building the ark. It was not easy. Many mocked him and questioned his sanity. But Noah had faith. As the years passed and the wood took shape, a magnificent ark stood imposingly, an undeniable testimony of Noah's obedience and faithfulness. God also provided Noah with instructions on who and what to take into the ark. His wife, his sons Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives were to embark. Furthermore, God told Noah to take 2 of all living things, male and female, inside the ark to keep them alive. You must take with you 7 of each kind of pure animal, the male and his female, and 2 of each kind of impure animal, the male and his female, and also 7 of each kind of bird, male and female, to preserve the species on the face of the earth. Genesis 7.2.3 Noah did everything exactly as God had commanded him, Genesis 6.22. Your exemplary obedience is a testament to your commitment and faith. Despite the difficulties and skepticism of those around him, he followed God's instructions to the letter, building the ark and gathering the animals, just as God had specified. This faithfulness not only saved him and his family, but also ensured the continuity of life on earth after the flood. The story of Noah is a powerful reminder of the importance of faith and obedience, even in the face of unimaginable challenges and in the midst of a world that has strayed from the right path. We have just explored one of the most fascinating chapters in human history, full of mystery, faith, and surprising revelations. But this is just the beginning. On our channel, each video is an open door to new worlds and spectacular discoveries. If you were amazed by Noah's journey and the secrets of the Nephilim, there is much more waiting for you. Don't miss our next epic adventures. Subscribe now, turn on notifications, and join a community that loves uncovering the deepest mysteries of history and faith. Like, comment, and share so we can continue this incredible journey together. Your participation is what inspires us to bring more and more exciting content. Remember, each video is a new revelation and you are an essential part of this discovery. Until the next adventure, because the story continues and you will definitely want to be a part of it.